Hi guys, this is Rafael again. Okay, we are working with grade time 4, unit 2, and now we're going to do this section here, train to think. Okay, so this section is completely related to the text on the Great Fire of London. I hope you have read it, right? And in this section, we're going to try to understand a little bit better, not the text as a whole, but the small parts of the text called paragraphs, okay? So let's take a look here at this definition. So, following an idea through a paragraph. It can be difficult to follow what a writer is trying to say in a longer paragraph. We need to read carefully to understand fully what the writer is saying. Okay, so remember, sometimes the paragraphs, just like those ones, let's take a look there. The ones here on this text, they are a bit long. Take a look at paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 over here. They bring lots of information, and sometimes we get confused when we are reading. Okay, so in order to understand the paragraph a little bit better, let's do some activities to try to train this kind of reading. Okay, so here we have answer the questions. We have there, the end of paragraph 2 says, the situation provided the perfect conditions for flames to spread. Okay, and then we have 2 questions related to this. The first one is, look back at the paragraph. How many things are needed to start a big fire? You have to list them. And number 2, still related to paragraph 2, what were those things in London in 1666? Okay, now let's take a look at the next one. The beginning of paragraph 3 says, the fire spread quickly, but it was also extremely difficult to fight. And we have question number 3. Look at the paragraph 3 now. Why was the fire difficult to fight? So guys, what I want you to do, I want you to pause this video here, go back to paragraph 2, answer questions number 1 and 2, and later go to paragraph 3 and answer question number 3, okay? To help you, try to read the paragraph and write down the answers you think are correct for each one of those questions, okay? For those of you who have your books at home, you can underline the answers on the text. Is that okay? We'll be right back. So pause the video now and try to find the answers. All right. So I hope you have found the answers, but if you haven't, no problems, because now we're going to check them together. Okay, so let's see the first one. We need to look back at paragraph 2 and we need to list how many things are needed to start a big fire. Right, so let's go there on paragraph 2. So remember, this is paragraph 1, paragraph 2. Let's take a closer look. So, for a fire to start, 3 things are needed: a spark, fuel, and oxygen. So you see that this answer for number 1 is very easy to find because we already have the list here in the very beginning of the paragraph. So what are the 3 things needed to start a fire? A spark, fuel, and oxygen, right? So this is the answer for number 1. Now let's check question number 2. We need to say, what were those things in London in 1666? So, what was the spark? What was the fuel? And where did the oxygen come from? Okay, so let's go back to paragraph 2 and check these answers. So, In the bakery in Pudding Lane, a maid didn't tend to the ovens properly. Remember ovens, where we put the bread to bake. They got too hot and sparks began to fly. So you see spark here and spark here. So probably we have the answer for the spark. Where did it happen? It happened in the ovens of a bakery. Okay. Now, the weather that year had been extremely hot. It hadn't rained for months, but people knew winter was coming, so they'd stocked their cupboards with food and oil. Warehouses were full of wood, coal, and other winter supplies. A strong wind was blowing from the east. The situation provided the perfect conditions for flames to spread. So here, remember, spark, we already know. It was the ovens in the bakery. But now, where did the fuel come from? Well, it came from the food and oil in the houses, right? And also the wood, the coal, and other winter supplies in the warehouses. So this is the fuel, right? What makes the fire get even bigger. And now, where did the oxygen come from? Well, the oxygen came from the strong wind that was blowing from the east. You see, we have many different types of situations here, images that the writer was giving us, and we need to connect these ideas in a logical way. All right, so let's go back to the two first questions and answer them properly. So, how many things are needed to start a big fire? 3, right? We need a spark, fuel, and oxygen. And then number 2, what were those things in London in 1666? Well, the spark, as we saw, came from the ovens in the bakery. The fuel was the food and oil in the houses, and also the wood, coal, and winter supplies from the warehouses. Okay? So this is, and the oxygen, sorry, I forgot the oxygen. The oxygen came from the strong wind that was blowing. Okay, so these are the answers for questions number 1 and 2. Now let's take a look at 3. The beginning of paragraph 3 says the fire spread quickly, but it was also extremely difficult to fight. So we need to look at the paragraph and say, why was the fire difficult to fight? Let's go there and check. So the paragraph says, the fire spread quickly, but it was also extremely difficult to fight. It started in a poor area of the city, where houses were built very close to one another. Tens of thousands of people were living in very small spaces. A simple house was often home to many families as well as lodgers. As the catastrophe struck, people panicked. Some had to smash their doors to get out of their homes. The streets were blocked with people and with material that had fallen from houses. Many people had grabbed their most important possessions and were trying to flee from the flames with them. They screamed in terror and suffered from the heat and the smoke. Some escaped from the city on boats. Others simply dived into the river to save themselves. So we need to say why the fire spread quickly. Then we need to check over here. The houses were built very close to one another, and remember that the houses were filled with fuel for the fire, right? The food, the oil, and also we have here the streets were blocked with people and with material that had fallen from houses. So these two things made the fire very difficult to fight. Okay, so this is the answer for question number 3. Why was the fire difficult to fight? Well, because the houses were built very close to one another and the streets were filled with people and materials that had fallen from the other houses. Okay, so now what I want you to do, I want you to go back to the study guide and do exercise number 4 there in the study guide. And we'll be back together pretty soon. Okay, keep going. Bye.